Thank you for joining me tonight. This is Lindsay Jenkins again with Feel Free Traveling, and we're doing a destination video on one of my favorite places, Cancun, Mexico. And I want to start out with a little bit of a disclaimer. I do not know a whole lot about like the super authentic local life and scene of the Cancun area. I am far more familiar with the resort areas of Cancun, the activities, the excursions meant for tourists. So if you are looking for a super authentic local experience, obviously still reach out to me and I will get it figured out, but that is something that would require further research on my part, which is totally fine. So yeah, I wanted to kind of just start off with that, but let's go ahead and talk about traveling to the Cancun area, to Mexico, through COVID right now. And while we're talking about it, I have a few fun little pictures that I've taken on my travels to Cancun, mostly of just the absolutely beautiful scenery and just one of the very many allures of Cancun. So yeah, traveling to Cancun through COVID. There is currently no air travel restriction in terms of the countries that can or can't fly into Mexico. However, there is a land restriction. You cannot drive across or walk across the land Mexican border. If you want to go to Cancun, it needs to be through flight. That's a way for them to kind of keep in check the numbers that they are currently experiencing in Cancun. So as far as flying to Cancun goes, you will go through a symptom screen, a temperature check, and you'll have to fill out like a declaration, a questionnaire regarding your health. But there is no mandatory COVID testing. There will be mandatory quarantine if you are showing symptoms when you get there. They will quarantine you. And mask wearing is mandatory. It varies a little throughout Mexico from state to state, but yes, overall mask wearing is a requirement. I don't really know how they handle those with medical who have medical restrictions, people that can't wear masks. I'm not sure what the requirements are for them, if they have to like get a doctor's note or have to get checked out by a doctor in Mexico. I would have to do some more research on that. Insurance is also not mandatory. There's some countries that do require insurance for you to come in to the country. They have like special COVID insurance, or they require you to purchase travel insurance. But that is not the case in Cancun. I still recommend whenever you're traveling internationally to get travel insurance, because usually, you know, your medical insurance isn't good in another country, so having travel insurance with medical coverage is a good idea. Or, you know, if your trip gets canceled beforehand, usually international trips are more expensive and you would be out more money. So I do recommend when you're traveling internationally to get travel insurance. So please talk to me about that. Restaurants and resorts are open at reduced capacity, but separate nightclubs, separate bars that are their own like standing structure. They're not, part of a resort or something like that. Those are currently closed. So if you are wanting to get away from the resort nightlife, if you're wanting to get away from the resort for nightlife, you might have a harder time because those separate bars and nightclubs are closed. I am not aware of any curfews currently in place like some countries have. I do not believe Mexico has any curfews. So, and I totally forgot to scan through my pictures while I was talking. But yeah, these are a few pictures that I took. This was when we were flying into Cancun. I had never seen water this turquoise and beautiful. This is the view from one of the resorts that we stayed at, very close to the beach. And this was a sunset picture that I took. And just, yeah, I will never get tired of the views in Cancun. So another little disclaimer, Cancun, like when I say Cancun, it's kind of a general term and it's kind of misleading. Cancun is, hopefully you can see my cursor, Cancun is its own city, which is up here. But I won't be talking just about this area. I will also be talking about down here in Tulum, where is it? Here we go, Playa del Carmen. And I'll also be talking about Chichen Itza, which is actually over in a different state. It's over in the state of Yucatan. And Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, those are all in the state of Quintana Roo. So I apologize for my bad Spanish accent. I didn't really rehearse saying the words with the correct accent, so I apologize for that. So yeah, I'll be talking about a lot of areas, not just Cancun. It's kind of, an entire portion of the Yucatan Peninsula. So let's go ahead and talk about the resorts. If you are interested in staying at a resort in Cancun, it is important to know that all the resorts are different. And just kind of a good example are two resorts that I've stayed at in Cancun. They're the same entity, they're the same chain called the Secrets chain of resorts. But these two resorts are very different from each other, even though they're owned by the same company, I guess. So this is Secrets the Vine, which is right along, you can kind of see over up here in Cancun, there's an area called the hotel zone or the resort zone. Just along the beach, it's all resorts. That's really all you see is resort after resort after resort, but it has beautiful beach ocean view. And you can kind of tell from these photos of Secrets the Vine, this is actually a photo I took from our balcony, and yeah, you can see from the design, it's more of a modern, sleek, very clean kind of design. And it has huge windows. It's very glassy, and yeah, so this has more of a modern, very white, very sleek kind of feel. This other resort, Secrets Akumal, which is located down in Akumal, it's not located on the hotel zone up in Cancun proper. You can see from this picture that it has coral. It's got coral reefs right on the beach. If I had to choose, I'd probably say Secrets Akumal was more preferable to me because my husband loves to snorkel. And so you were able to you walk from your room down to the beach and you could snorkel. We did that multiple times while we were there, and we saw stingrays and plenty of fish. I want to say we saw a turtle. But yeah, you don't have to pay to go somewhere separate to snorkel. It's right there. And you can also see from this picture that it's not just one like huge skyscraper standing structure. It is very sprawling. And it's packed with all of these trees, all of this greenery. The one downside to this resort was because there was all this greenery, there were mosquitoes. So that was definitely a downside. But it also meant we got to see a lot of natural wildlife. We saw lots of iguanas. We saw coatis. You could see wildlife in your resort. It was very cool. And you can see from these pictures, this has more of a jungle, kind of more rustic-y kind of feel as opposed to modern. It had these wonderful swim-out pools. My husband and I stayed at a base level floor, which meant that we got a swim-out pool. Again, you can see from these pictures that it's got more of a jungle feel to it, but still very beautiful. We loved it there. And this is just a really good example of how all the resorts are different. You can find a resort that meets your tastes and your desires. and it's really good. So kind of moving on from that, we'll talk about, I would say, is the biggest tourist attraction of the Yucatan Peninsula, and that is the Mayan ruins. This is a photo that I took. It's unfortunately not very good, but it gives you an idea of what the Mayan ruins look like. This is at Chichen Itza, and so it's got that, you know, very, a very classic, very well-known, that's what I should say, very well-known Mayan temple. And then you can kind of see off in the distance in the middle, and then over here off to the right, there were other structures as well. So there's a lot to see at Chichen Itza. And then a few other photos. These were up close of just how intricate these structures were, how well built they were, because they're still around. This is a kind of a sports arena that is still up, and you can see it today, and it just gave you an idea of what the Mayans did, the sports they played, how they lived. And you can see the pyramid again over there in the background, and you can see my husband there in the blue shirt in the forefront. This is the ruins at Tulum, which is another area entirely. Depending on what ruins you want to go to, that might determine what resort you stay at, because those two resorts that I talked about staying at, Secrets the Vine and Secrets Akumal, were in two very different areas, and so that determined which ruins we went to, unless we wanted to spend 4 hours driving to get there. So yeah, this is the ruins at Tulum, and you can see in the background there that that is the ocean. This was a port city, and it's really cool to see the ruins right next to the ocean. You can go down onto the beach and be in the water and look up and see some of the temples and the pyramids there. And these are, you know, a couple more pictures of what's there. I absolutely recommend, and it's not just these ruins, there's also Koba and a few other ruins. I believe the pyramid at Koba is where you can actually still climb on the pyramid and like stand up at the top and get that amazing view. A lot of, if not all of these other ruins do not allow you to climb on them anymore, just because they're such a tourist attraction that they would just get completely demolished if that was allowed. But yeah, so there's Koba and there's a few others. And when you do go to the Mayan ruins, I really recommend getting a tour guide or doing a lot of your own research before you go, because there are just so many things. As cool as it is to just kind of walk around and see all of these amazing structures, there is just so much you would not know just by walking around and looking. So I really recommend getting a tour guide. And both times we've been both of those ruins, the tour guides that we went with were really fun. They were really personable, and yeah, it made the experience a lot more rich. Another tip about the ruins is near the entrances you will see people with exotic animals like toucans, or you know, holding these huge iguanas, things like that, and they'll come up to you and they're like, hey, you want a picture? And then after you take the picture, they will try and charge you. And you know, if you want to take a picture with their animal, you should probably pay them, but know that that's what's going to happen. If you're not prepared to pay for the picture, do not take the picture, because they will try after the fact to get you to pay for it. So yeah, that I would say is the biggest tourist attraction, but there's also these amazing cenotes, these natural freshwater sinkholes that have cultural significance for that area, but they're absolutely beautiful. This is probably my favorite thing I've ever done in Cancun, was get to swim in a cenote. Most of the tours that you can book for the ruins will include a swim in a cenote, because it's just that classic of a pairing, and just you really don't want to miss out on that experience. You really don't. And yeah, there's also like these large cliff faces that you can jump off of into the cenote, because they are these very, very deep bodies of water. They're very clean, and they make sure they stay clean by like having you rinse off to make sure that none of your chemical sunscreen gets trapped in the water. They try very hard to keep these preserved. There's also these networks, I guess, where cenotes are connected to each other through like underground rivers and stuff. And sometimes you get to swim in these rivers that connect cenotes. You can take tours of, I don't have a picture of it, but you can take tours of, sometimes when they go underground, you can snorkel, and so you're going through these stalactites and then come out in another cenote. There's all different kinds of ways you can experience cenotes. Another big tourist attraction of the Cancun Yucatan Peninsula area are some of their theme parks. This is the Explore theme park that has lots and lots of zip lines, so you can experience just the sprawling greenery and the canopies of that area. This is another place where you can experience just like swimming in these caves, these underground caves. And here you can kind of see it's a little bit lower down. It's maybe a little claustrophobic, but then there's other places where it opens up into these huge caves, and like there's bats in there. And yet you're getting to swim in this beautiful, refreshing water. And then Explore is kind of more focused on the underground. There's places where you can walk in underground caverns and that kind of stuff. Another one of their parks is the Shelha. This is the Shelha Park, which has this cool slide and like lighthouse observatory. And this one more focuses on the ability to snorkel, and it's kind of more out in the open in these bays and rivers and that kind of stuff. So these are two pretty different experiences as far as parks go. Another one is the Xcaret, sorry. And this one I don't know a whole lot about. I know it exists. My understanding is that this one focuses more on culture. There are still portions of it for swimming and relaxing and snorkeling and that kind of stuff, but there's also exhibits, cultural exhibits, historical exhibits, as well as these shows. So those are a few of the tourist attractions. There's a few other little things, like you can do camel rides or horseback rides on the beach. My husband and I did this. It was a lot of fun. You get this little 2-person speedboat that you kind of just take. You follow your tour guide in this long caravan, I guess, of speedboats, and they take you through lagoons and mangroves, and then they take you snorkeling for like half an hour. And yeah, it's this really cool little experience that is a way to be able to see Cancun and the Yucatan Peninsula from a different way. And another really fun thing is, like I kind of mentioned before with the Secrets Akumal Resort, is that you get a lot of chances to see natural wildlife. This was at the Explore Park, and there were monkeys in all the trees, and there was also this really cool like neon orange iguana. And yeah, it's something that you do not get to experience a lot, at least in the United States, of getting to see all these exotic animals out in the open, not in a zoo or an exhibit or anything like that. So while we're looking at these cool animal pictures, I do want to mention a few other things in terms of, I guess, traveling information. And that is, the U.S. government kind of has a standing travel advisory against traveling to Mexico because of the high crime rate. I have never once felt unsafe while I've been there. because of the experiences and that I chose and the places that I chose to stay, or rather, my husband's business, my husband's company chose for us and booked for us. For that reason, I recommend, if you aren't going to stay at a resort, at least stay near a resort, because those areas are better policed. They have a greater police presence because they know that they need to protect their tourists or no one's going to come. So for your own safety, I do recommend staying at a resort or somewhere like that, and somewhere in that area. I don't recommend renting a car because, one, a lot of excursions include transportation. Like, they'll pick you up and they'll take you and they'll bring you back. And there's really no way to like opt out of it for a lower cost, at least not that I've figured out. And so I recommend, like, you know, there's really no reason to also rent a car. And there's also the risk of like your car being broken into or your car being stolen. So I for those two reasons, I don't recommend renting a car. As far as the experience of Cancun goes, I love the staff and the hospitality workers that are there, the tour guides and resort staff. I love them. They're very hardworking, they're very efficient, but they're also very polite. They really help you to feel relaxed. You know you're not going to have to wait 2 hours to get your drink. They bring it to you. They do it quickly, and they do it very kindly. So they know how to help you to have fun and like stay relaxed. You don't have to like be on edge because they're not polite or things like that. They know how to help you to have fun without having to sacrifice good service. They have a very good work ethic, and they know their business. They know what they're doing. And then also, as I touched on in my video to Hawaii, I recommend learning at least a few words of the language before you go. I really think that when you learn words of the language, it really helps you to connect with the people, the culture, the history of that area, and to kind of see it from their eyes a little bit better. That being said, be upfront about how much of the language you speak. Don't like throw out 2 words and then they'll start speaking to you in Spanish and then you pretend like you understand them when you don't. Like, be upfront, say I didn't understand that, and they'll be cool about it. They would rather know your language abilities and be able to use that, as opposed to they have to go back and say what they were saying 5 times again, or feel like that they're being made fun of because you're using their language so like sporadically. But yeah, I always recommend learning a few words of the language before you go. And this was a Kauai that we also saw. It was fun. And this was me and my husband in Cancun. We're really hoping to get to go again this upcoming November. So 1 more year. And yeah, it's a great experience. I really love it. If you want to learn more about Cancun, if you want to book a trip there, please reach out to me. I would love to help out and share my knowledge and also expand my knowledge by learning things for you, for your trip. And as always, please reach out to me with any other questions that you have. And I hope to hear from you guys again soon. Thanks so much, guys.